Bowman, Senior Director of the Center on Military and Political Power at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Brad, great to have you with us. If I recall, you were quite critical of that Biden administration decision in May to hold up arms to Israel. So let me get your reaction to this step. Does that make up for it or not really?
Thanks for the opportunity to join you. I view this announcement yesterday, this announcement of five, that the administration has approved 5 foreign military sales to Israel as a laudable, positive, and belated step. I mean, a lot of these were sitting with the Biden administration for months. And so that's not good, given the urgency of the threats that Israel confronts. But I suspect that the administration saw a moment here where they could send these to Congress for approval with a good chance of them being approved. But your correspondent is exactly correct. All of these are not going to arrive for years. That doesn't mean this is irrelevant, because it's a statement of political support for Israel in a moment where it's potentially confronting a complex multi-front attack. And so this is an important political statement. These are real capabilities that Israel needs, but they won't arrive for years.
All right. So what would be another way for those who believe the U.S. should be helping Israel, for it to be helping in terms of a more immediate relief when it comes to arms or defensive goods?
Well, you know, I think we should acknowledge that the U.S. military has an extraordinary amount of combat power in the Middle East and is sending more there. Your viewers will know that we're expediting the transit of a second carrier strike group there, in addition to the one that's already in the region. We've got a Marine Expeditionary Unit, a large number of Air Force assets, air defense assets that have been sent. So that is significant. No country in the world, arguably in the history of the world, could do what we're doing right now to help defend Israel. It remains to be seen what form the aggression takes, whether it's worse than what we saw in April. I think due diligence requires us to assume that it could be worse and to be prepared to defend Israel. But if we solely play defense and we don't impose costs on Tehran and its terror proxies, then we're going to simply incentivize them to keep crossing this Rubicon with direct attacks on Israel.
Now, I think the current situation, Brad, does underscore the fact that when it comes to arms, Israel is become highly dependent on, for example, on the U.S. It's unfortunately that arms sales to Israel, to everywhere, especially this region, have become a political hot issue. That raises the question of what Israel perhaps could be doing itself to make it less dependent on, for example, outside sources. What would you suggest, or what would you think how that could be addressed?
I think the factual basis of your question is correct, and I understand the Israeli impulse. There's two things that are true at the same time. One is that the United States has sent an extraordinary quantity and array of weapons to Israel after October 7th. Really impressive. Second only to the security assistance campaign to Ukraine in recent years. But what is also true is we've seen some weapons withheld and delayed, and growing criticism, public criticism, which is particularly unhelpful from the White House. So I understand the Israeli impulse to be self-sufficient. But the unfortunate reality is Israel will never be self-sufficient. It will never be a superpower in its defense industrial base. It's a technology superpower. It'll always be reliant on others. So there's a right way and a wrong way to try to reduce that dependency, but it'll never be eliminated. And we discussed this in a memo a few months ago.
Well, just very briefly, what's the right way?
The right way is to not try to undertake large-scale fighter systems and major systems that the U.S. can produce, but to focus on building as much as possible in Israel the systems that are most likely to be deprived from the United States, and that's particularly air-launched munitions. Air-launched, precision-guided munitions is where, if I were an Israeli, I would focus on building as much self-sufficiency as possible, among a few others.
All right. Bradley Bowman from the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, thank you for that.
Thank you.